I remember when I very first started this work years ago, and one of my personal practices was a solo self-pleasure practice for 7 days in a row. And at the very beginning of it, I thought, this is going to be so great. 7 days in a row, pleasure, pleasure, pleasure every day. And the first day was really fun. And the second day was pretty fun too. And then by the third day, I was so over it, y'all. I was like, this pleasure business is so boring. I was almost fighting with this practice because I just felt like I had such a difficult time concentrating and not letting myself be distracted and go 10 different directions. Because pleasure is a practice, one of the things that we can see in our life and our day-to-day is that there are 100 different ways that we can be pulled out of pleasure, and that we might even stay out of our pleasure because of just whatever is happening in the world. You could watch any news program and see a reason to be upset. You could go out in the heat. I live in Houston, Texas. It has consistently been 100 degrees outside. Go out in 100-degree weather and feel just like beaten up by the heat and feel like this is not pleasurable at all. And take yourself out of pleasure. And so there are all these ways in our life, hundreds, thousands of opportunities in our life that can take us out of feeling good, whether it's feeling good in our heart, feeling good in our body, feeling good and confident in our sex. So life is gonna life. And sometimes the world is fucked up, and all of these things take us out of our pleasure, our enjoyment, our sense of feeling good. What's something that takes you out of pleasure, out of joy, and out of a sense of fulfillment or feeling good? In a real general way, what's something that takes you out of pleasure, joy, and feeling good? Maybe it's a particular person, maybe it's a particular activity. It could be anything. And then you might want to be curious about what's something that takes me out of my pleasure when I am pursuing pleasure. And this may be when you are getting intimate with your lover. It may be when you are exploring your own body, when you are touching yourself, when you are masturbating, when you are connecting with yourself, whether it's in something as simple as meditation or your exercise, or it's your erotic experience. What's something that takes you out of the pleasure of you creating pleasure? What takes you out of pleasure when you are seeking to create pleasure? So we have this kind of relationship with pleasure as can't have pleasure until I get things done, or that the things that are on my list that I get to do in my life somehow are not fun or not pleasurable, and they distract me from having pleasure or feeling good. So there's like this conflict in the system of your life, right? And so that's the thing that stops us from having pleasure and living with pleasure every day of our life. And that's why a meditation, a practice like this can be so valuable, is because it actually reorients us into pleasure, to say, hey, regardless of whatever we like have to do in the world, we get to have pleasure. We get to take that pleasure into whatever we're doing. And also this kind of practice, this meditative practice, is also valuable because it also says, hey, my pleasure is actually really important. This resetting our mindset is also about telling our own self, like, I don't have to complain about everything. I don't have to look for what's not working. I can actually, regardless of all that stuff that's happening in the world, I can actually be deeply connected into my own enjoyment, into my passion. I can still be in the flow of my pleasure, from feet to sex to heart to crown. Especially, this is also true, especially if you experience a kind of uncertainty in your life. I know that when I feel uncertain, like, okay, I get to make X amount of money this month, and it's going to take some work to make it happen. Sometimes I feel like, oh, am I going to make that happen? I might feel uncertainty. I might feel scarcity. And if I'm in that place and I'm feeling like there's uncertainty, if I stay there and I contract, then it's so much more difficult to access pleasure from that place than it is to be in a place of pleasure, connected to feeling good, right? So that I can hold the uncertainty and I can feel good at the same time, rather than holding the uncertainty and feeling like shit about it. Because actually, when I'm holding the uncertainty and I'm feeling like shit, I'm not actually opening up to the possibilities that are around me, the possibilities that come by being open. I really want to land with you that pleasure is something that you can create in a moment in time. Like the meditation that we did was probably about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. You can create it in a really short period of time. And as I said, for me, that kind of meditative practice, that kind of embodiment practice, I've done it so many times over the years that it's super easy for me to jump in. So if it took a little while for you or effort for you now, what could it be like if you practiced once a week or once every day for a week? How easy could you make that for yourself over the course of time? And then that pleasure gets to be like a renewable resource where you can access it anytime and feed your body, your heart, your mind, your soul, your business, your friendships, your sex life, your eroticism, your sensuality. That sense of I'm feeling good and I'm giving myself this gift